call to order the public hearing that's been scheduled for after our session today, as soon as we get over our heart attacks. We already had a pledge of allegiance. We have a few people come in, so we'll pledge again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome everybody to our public hearing today. This is May 15, and I'm putting this on the record. That's why I'm saying some things that are obvious. We're going to have a roll call here as to who's here, and then I'll talk a little bit more about what this hearing's about.
Sue Smale. Here. Ron Olmsted.
Here.
Becky Foster. Here.
Thank you. The record will show that we're all here as the Board of Commissioners, and this is a hearing in, it's actually one of two hearings that we've scheduled and publicized on a proposal coming from our county engineer to address additional funding for our highway maintenance system for our infrastructure. And that's the purpose of the hearing. We are going to do several things. Those who have a desire to speak at this hearing, to testify, need to let us know that. And we had this pass around. I think everybody that is interested in this has signed up. So we'll use that as our basis for calling witnesses. We also have an agenda. If anybody wants one of those, we have those. And I think there's a document that the county engineer has prepared that's back at the table back there. If anybody still wants one of those, we're going to go through that as part of this hearing process. All right. Thank you for handing those out. We will be hearing first from the engineer since it's his proposal, and he'll go through, it'll take him probably about 20 minutes to go through his preparation. We're going to pull the screen down and do a PowerPoint, have him do a PowerPoint for that. We will have each one that wants to testify beyond the engineer come forward to the podium here. We will record that and listen to your testimony. There may be a question or two or three from the board here. I ask that everyone today at this hearing go through the chairman. I'll be chairing this since I'm currently this year the president. So that's kind of our arrangement. I think most people are familiar, but there is a restroom kind of in the far hallway if anybody needs one during the course of the hearing. We are going to swear in those that wish to testify today, including the engineer. So our clerk will do that at this time. So the folks that wish to be speaking today or may want to speak, please stand and let the clerk take it from there.
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. 2 people. Okay. All right. We're going to take a little technical break here while we bring the screen down and get things ready. You want to come back, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I want to get my copy here.
How do you get it? Oh, gosh.
Leaders of the county there.
Yeah,
Here we are,
we can't figure out the ink pens.
technological gurus. Oh, that's kind of sad.
Well, we're glad we had one person amongst us that figured it out.
Fight.
No,
if I'll keep it going.
We're messing with it up there when she goes, they're effective. I said, I think they are.
My fault, one step I did not do.
There we go.
There it is.
I'm on.
Oh.
We have
okay.
lift off.
I thought maybe I had
That was
it.
good, running the easy, yeah. Okay, we all set? You can go when you're ready.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you commissioners for holding this public hearing and approving and holding it. It is on.
Oh.
Is it on?
Yeah, I just can't
Is
hear
it
you.
on?
Just can't hear.
Sorry. Trying to get it in the record.
How about that? Is that good?
Not terribly.
Now,
Can you put it in the microphone
No,
stand?
I would not recommend that. I tried.
It won't stay.
Won't go in. All right, we'll do the best we can. Go ahead.
I can hold it.
hold it up.
It's tight.
How about this?
That's much
There
better.
we go.
That's why I didn't get into teaching. I don't have the voice to control a room, that's for sure. But my sister had the genes. But anyways, I want to appreciate the commissioners for approving and putting on this public hearing, and I want to thankful for the staff, the engineer's office, helping me prepare this information, and also thanks for the constituents of Wayne County that came today to this hearing to hear about the request for this additional $5 vehicle registration. As Ron has said already, this public hearing is about an additional $5 vehicle registration permissive tax. So the public hearing is to provide convincing evidence to the Wayne County Commissioners of the need for the additional countywide $5 vehicle registration permissive tax, and to listen to all public comments, answer all questions pertaining to the evidence provided. And that's what I'm going to do at this point, is provide the evidence. First of all, what is a vehicle registration permissive tax? A lot of people don't realize exactly what that is. Every time you register your vehicle, you go to the DMV, and there's a tax. It's also mailed to your house. It's a tax that is levied by counties, municipalities, and/or townships on vehicle registrations. When you receive that in the mail, it says local, and you'll see $15 or $20, depending on where you live. So, current vehicle registration permissive tax laws and information. Currently, our state legislation has, in the Ohio Revised Code, allows counties to pass up to 4 $5 permissive taxes. Wayne County has passed 3 of the 4 of these $5 permissive taxes. The Ohio Revised Code also allows for municipalities and townships to pass up to 1 additional $5 permissive tax. So currently, everyone in Wayne County, you're either paying $15 or $20 permissive tax for the vehicle, depending on where you live. And so you have the 3 for the county, and then 1 depending on if the township and/or the municipality has decided to pass their $5. This additional, if the commissioners approve the $5 permissive tax, this additional tax will add approximately $600,000 to the Wayne County Engineers budget to spend only on county highway infrastructure and maintenance for roads and bridges. Here is the current list of permissive tax district. If you live in the cities or villages listed above, you're either paying 15 or 20. Then below the townships, you can see only Chippewa Township is the only one that has passed their $5. Hey Ron, am I allowed to take questions now?
No, let's finish your
Yeah.
testimony, then we'll take
Yeah.
questions. And it'll go through the chair. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
But please, we will get.
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
I
yes,
do want to
no.
have those questions answered.
Yes, absolutely. I apologize.
No problem.
Before we get into that, I think it's important for me to discuss the state of the Wayne County infrastructure, as far as where we're at with our roads and bridges. And first of all, as far as our bridges go, we are second in the state for the number of bridges of all the counties. We have 492. And here's the neighboring counties and how many bridges they have. And you can see we have a good lion's share more than most of the counties around us. And we don't get any extra money for these additional bridges. It's something we have to deal with and take care of. Here's our inspection results from 2018 for our bridges. As you can see at the bottom there, they're labeled 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 being the best and 3 being the worst. And basically, when you're a 5 and below, you're looking at replacing the bridge at that time. 6 and greater is more of a maintenance issue, and of course 9 is really good condition. What we do with our bridges, and as far as our maintenance goes, we currently perform all bridge repairs and replacements by force account. The force account limit right now for bridges, structures, culverts is $100,000. Force account means using county personnel and equipment. We do this except for federal aid bridge projects. Every year we apply for and have received federal bridge funding. And so we have the capabilities to precast our own units. We bid out the precast, set them with our own crews. We perform bridge beam, deck repairs, replacements ourselves. Basically, getting to the bottom there, we spend about $350,000 annually for just the bridge materials, and that does not include our labor and equipment. As far as roads go, again, we rank very high. We're 4th in the state for the county for road mileage. In the state for any county with road mileage, we're at 499. And there's the neighboring counties and their road mileage. And again, we don't see much of an increase of anything with this additional mileage. But we had 2018, we had the roads inspected by Midwest Pavement Analysis and Design. They rated and performed a current maintenance and resurfacing cost analysis for all 490 miles of our county. It did not come back very good. It was basically to maintain and resurface everything that we have that needs maintained and resurfaced. We're looking at a bill of $36,800,000. And there below is kind of a makeup of the different resurfacing that they recommended and how much. But you can see there's a lot of miles out there that's in pretty rough shape. So conclusion from the inspection is we are way behind in maintaining our roads. We currently, again, we perform all road repairs using force account. Our maintenance is performed. We use scratch pave, drag, patch, chip and seal. $1.7 million out of our budget takes care of the maintenance for our roads. That's just the materials, and again, it's the materials to perform the scratch pave. That also includes repairing potholes and repairing negative burn. It's amazing how much money we have in materials just for potholes. It adds up. We also, this past year, Ryan Marthy, a roadway engineer, and myself, we classified our roads, and we came up with what is our cost for us to maintain our current system. So we figured that was important for us to understand money-wise and what we're looking at as far as costs. We divided the roads into class 1, 2, 3, depending on the traffic count per day. You can see here, there's the different mileage range. For 1,500 and greater, looking around 91 miles. Next, class 2, 1,500, 400 to 1,500, are at 240. And class 3 is below 400, we're at 571 miles. This sees very little traffic. And we divided those into non-Amish, we labeled those A, and Amish is B, and there's our numbers, all in miles, and then we came up with an annual per mile cost for class 1A, class 1B, and so on, and we came up with a cost of $4,312,554 to maintain it, and that's an annual cost. For more detailed breakdown, you can get on our website, and we will have that information. you. Talking a little bit about the state government 10.5 cent gas tax. What does that mean? First of all, the increase of the state gas tax is 10.5 cents per gallon. Increases it from 28 to 38.5 cents. Diesel went up 19 cents. Went up 19 cents from 28 cents to 47 cents. State has not increased the gas or diesel tax since 2005. We're looking at an increase of $1.5 million to our budget, which brings the total from $7.4 million to $8.9 million. Again, this gas tax can only be used for road and bridge repair, rehabilitation, replacement. We're very thankful, that's for sure, for the passage of that gas tax. That is a huge help, and we will definitely see some great things from it and much improvement on our roads. But as I mentioned earlier, we did the 4.3 million was what we were looking at budget-wise to maintain. We were at 1.7. We saw an increase of 1.5. So if you add all that subtracted by 4.3, you're looking around 1.1 million. And we're still going to be short. Do the calculations. 2019 beyond maintenance. What we're planning on using this additional road maintenance cost. It's kind of it's a forecast over the next several years of what we plan on doing with this additional money. First of all, it's all going to go into roads. We don't look at any of this additional money having to be used for bridge repair. We're going to stick it all into to getting our roads back to where they need to be. So we just can't do all the work ourselves anymore, what we used to do. So we'll most likely start contracting out our chip and seal. We're looking at using a motor pave on a lot of the non-Amish roads, and then I think everyone's got a handout, so I'm going to kind of skim through all of this, and then we use the drag patch, scratch pave, and chip and seal on the Amish roads. There's some more information as regards to how we plan on utilizing the first 2 years. We're looking really just concentrating more on preserving our roads, and then as we get into the 21 and beyond, hopefully get into much more of a more routine maintenance program. Road maintenance forecast maps are available on our website, wayne-county-engineer.com. My question is what about safety projects? What about emergency projects? Our constituents, they want good roads now. That's why we're looking at putting all that money into our road improvements. So when the money is tight, and it has been for many years, and currently we are in a hole catching up. Safety projects or funds available for emergency projects were basically non-existent. And we do believe that to some extent the county roads and bridges do pose a certain level of risk. There's data that shows that we're that the conditions of our roads and there's definitely some risk there. And this is some data that it's going to be hard to read. You might be able to see it in your handout a little bit easier. This is information that's provided to us from ODOT a couple of years ago. And in Wayne County, all the accidents added up on state routes, county routes, township, city, village, ended up being 7,238 over a 3-year period. But the thing to really look at is they haven't divided it whether you're in an intersection or if you're along the road. If you're not in an intersection, you're along the road. If you look to the left there, there is a fixed object, and they're saying that almost 77% of the accidents are non-intersection is a fixed object. And then as far as when you're in an intersection, if you look at that, most of our intersections are stop controlled. If you go down to the bottom box there through the stop control, you'll look at the angle. 71% is an angle, so those are intersections where you have someone getting T-boned, basically. And those are the worst type of accidents, other than a head-on, of course, that are going to cause a lot of problems. And they're definitely something that you need to be cognizant about. And a little bit more information we received from ODOT. It's hard to see definitely on this. It's we had 43 fatalities in that 3-year period. That 3-year need. 43, and if you look to the bottom left there, if you look at the fatalities, a little red, there's 7 of them that are fixed object and 10 that are angle. So these are the areas that I felt, and then there's also serious crashes. We had 248 that probably required a hospital visit of those accidents. So and again, it's those fixed objects and those angle crashes that we're seeing a lot of bad accidents. So what I'm proposing is what I'd like is the additional $5 license plate fee, additional $600,000. I'd like to, first of all, it can only be used for road and bridge projects, but I propose to utilize this additional $600,000 every year to fund safety improvement and capital improvement projects. And here's a list of some of those categories to improve poor sight distance and improve high accident intersections, improve bridges that are narrow, bridges that are inadequate approach, add guardrail along sections of roads with large deep ditches, fix active slopes that are sliding and showing pavement distress, and in addition to buggy lanes in areas that with bad sight distance, increase our striping program, and some of the other safety improvements, signals, flashing signals at intersections, LED stop, man stop signs, widened intersections, etc. Then also I have in there for some of the other capital improvements would be improved drainage problems and ability to respond to emergency repairs to roads and bridges. I'll go through these real fast here. As far as some of the, I'll just show you some of the intersections that do have very poor sight distance. If you go to Fredericksburg Road and Moreland Road, this is westbound on Moreland, looking north. There's blind spots. You get 350 feet from the intersection, continue 730 feet. We go between 13 and 17, we're seeing 6 injury accidents, and all of them being a failure to yield. So those are your T-bone, and when it says injury accidents, those are definitely part of the statistics of those who end up having to go to the hospital. Honeytown Road, and Moreland Road. Again, there's the statistics for that. I'm going to roll through these here. Carr Road and Moreland Road. There's some statistics for that also. Just injury accidents. Millbrook Road, Springville Road. 2 injury accidents, 2010. Sometimes we don't have all the data for all of these. And then 2013 and 17, we had 4 accidents there, 3 with injuries in Harrison and West Lebanon Road. Then here's Harrison Road and Mount Hope Road. We had 8 accidents between 13 and 17, 3 with injuries. Now this one we had 2 involved with semi-trailer having difficulty negotiating the turn there. So that might be a good spot for intersection widening. And then 4 involved in some road conditions. Carr Road and Apple Creek Road. Right now, I believe there's mirrors that are currently installed to help see over the mirror and see over the hill there. We'll need to perform a safety study to gather more information. Then also Area Road and West Old Lincoln Road. That one did have a fatal accident in 2018. And 13 or 17, we had 5 accidents full with injuries. So that one. And Salt Creek Road, Kansas Road. We'll need to get some more information on that one. But you get this stuff, you get to these intersections and also have some high accident intersections. These are just a couple that are on our radar right now. This is out here on Mechanicsburg Road, Smithville Western. We are, for whatever reason, it's becoming accident heaven out there. It's just through 15, 17, we've had 6 accidents, and then just recently here within the last year and a quarter, we've had 3 accidents. And Brock here from my office is working with utility companies now to help relocate those poles that are definitely help blocking the view, and hopefully you can see there's some trees there and stuff. Maybe we can help cut back. But I mean, there's definitely some intersections you can improve without having to spend a lot of money, and just getting out there and working with utilities and all that. We can try to improve them, and but a 4-way stop would probably be the last thing we would want to do. But if it ends up needing to be there, we will do it. Our road in Emerson is another one. A lot of accidents, evidently, if they're not as serious, we only see 1 injury. 6 accidents. This has occurred on Fridays, 5 in the afternoon between 2 and 5:15, and this is real close to the school there, so we definitely are getting some phone calls on this one, so we'll be looking at doing some upgrades on this too. As far as along the road and there's those obstructions that get hit, this is where the narrow bridges, and there's also bridges that don't have the proper approach guardrail. And I'll show you some pictures here shortly. But between a narrow bridge and a 1-lane bridge, there is a difference. A narrow bridge is basically between 16 and 18 feet. We have 18 of those on our county inventory, and approximately about $300,000 each, plus or minus. So roughly to replace them all, we're looking around $5 million. And then the 1-lane bridge, we have 16 feet under. We have 18 of those also, and the same statistics on those. Here's a couple bridges that I know have been around for a while. I was a bridge engineer here from '97 to 2000, and Seacrest Road Bridge was a problem back then, and it still appears to be a problem now. And the reason you probably want to, well, just replace the thing. It's like when you have 500 bridges or 492 bridges, you replace the ones that are worse first. You want to make sure that everyone can get to work, everyone can get to school, everyone, we try to take care of those, keep all the bridges open at all times. So with that philosophy, what happens is these narrow ones are the ones that are potentially hazards, have to wait. And we've got quite a few of those, and here's a couple. Now the one on the right there, the Pleasant Home Road Bridge, Congress, it might be hard to see, but those are actually steel beams that are behind that guardrail. If you are off to the right a little bit, traveling this direction, you're going to hit one of those beams, and you're going to stop suddenly. And so it's definitely a hazard out there. There's quite a few of those that are on the county system. These are a couple spots where we're looking at. We have deep ditches, and I'm sure you guys have all seen these. Apple Creek Road is one of them, and Birch City Road is the other. Looking at that guardrail there. Another thing that most people probably don't realize is we also have active slopes. They're not actually failing. We can still drive over them, but they are cracking. They're showing distress on the road, and eventually, if something isn't done, they will slip and slide, and they'll drop several inches, and then we'll have to close the road, or at least a good portion of it. As you can see here, this one is on Myers Road, just west of Rice Hill. This is approximately 50-foot deep slope, fairly large. It's got large cracks, and it might be hard to see there. They're 4 to 5 feet within the pavement, and We would have to do a geotech analysis to design repair. Most likely use something like this again with soil nails. And you know, cost-wise, I mean, this is a guess, 300 to 400,000. But we would have to try to work with the NEMA and see if we can get some grant money to help pay for this. But same thing with West Lebanon Street, West Lebanon Road, south of Harrison Road, same thing. This one's a little shallower, 30 feet, large cracks. Not unusual to see patching. That's usually, you try to patch it to keep the water out of the cracks. But when you're adding weight to a slide, it doesn't help the slide. And but again, these are not cheap fixes. Bird City Road, again, it's not only is that deep ditches, but it's also sliding too. Large cracks there. On the south side, and then on Canaan Center, these just happened to develop here not too long ago. I think a lot of the rain we're getting, we're seeing erosion at the bottom of the toe of the slope there on Canaan Center. So you can see we have some cones up there. This is a fairly deep ditch there too. You can see there's no shoulder there. You definitely don't want to be a distracted driver on some of these roads, that's for sure. Another thing would be in addition to buggy lanes, is driving on Harrison Road. This is west out of Fredericksburg. You can see the stretch there, and then Harrison Road looking east. This is west of West Lebanon Road. You can see they're on Fireburg Road, headed south out of Fredericksburg. And then if you look at Moreland Road, you can see there on the side where the buggies have already decided they kind of made their own little buggy lane there to the left of that picture. But you can see that they're probably had a lot of close calls. Pavement striping. To give you a little background of where we're at with our pavement striping. Striping is definitely one of those things. It gets neglected a lot of times. It's the last thing, it's done usually towards the end of the year, and everyone's pretty much plowed through their budget, and the striper guy is sitting there with all the money. He's got a little bit of money, and everyone's trying to take money from the striping, and he does end up losing a little bit, it seems like. We have 499 county highway miles right now. We stripe, or should be striping, 304 miles of center line. And of those 304 miles of center line, 142 is receiving edge lines. And the cost roughly to do all our striping, if we contracted out, is around $300,000. And we typically spend a little over, or in some cases under, $100,000 for contract striping. Last year, our striper striped freezing weather, and invoiced us even for roads that they did not stripe. So that's another issue that you're dealing with when you contract a striper. Is usually you're not out there, and you always wonder about the quality of what you're getting. So what we've done is we're going to start striping our own roads with horse account, and we purchased a palletized striper, and we're going to put it on the back of a flatbed, and actually, I think starting next week, we'll be starting to get trained on it, and so I'm definitely excited to see this in action, and we've been preparing for it for some time, and our costs will reduce quite a bit if we paint everything. I think we're looking at around $170,000 for cover all the materials, and I guess we'd be looking at the license plate fee also to help offset some of this painting costs. Other safety and drainage improvements, adding signals, flashers, intersections, converting to four-way stop. These would be in high accident areas, and also the money to perform the intersection safety studies. We're probably looking at adding the LED stop signs and stop ahead signs in different areas. There's 3 intersections that we know of, and I'm sure there's probably more out there that we'd be looking at widening these intersections. They've probably been asked to be widened for years and years and years. And again, usually these type of projects, or any type of safety project, is usually pushed in the background. Drainage improvements, there's a couple spots that I know off the top of my head, and as far as that, these are areas that have been ignored for a while too, is the unincorporated area of Sterling. I'm sure anyone that's worked in the county for any period of time have heard complaints about the drainage problems up there, and I've always heard, well, it's just money, you know, and often it's like, well, evidently it must be hard to find because it hasn't been fixed yet. Then Old Lincoln Way East, near Goddard's Chapel, we inherited that portion from ODOT when the Route 30 went through. There's definitely some drainage issues up there. I threw out a tentative 3-year plan forecast. I call it tentative and I call it forecast because it's it could be subject to change as we dig into this and look into this a little bit closer. But if additional $5 license plate is approved, this would be the program that we're looking at. Basically, we'd be looking at replacing one bridge every year. That would be considered narrow, or one lane. And we'd be looking at also the help on the painting and striping. I think everybody in the county would benefit from that. And then also improving some sight distance and improving intersections. There at Clark Road and Emerson 2020, and then we'd be looking at Bird City Road, WWC Road Improvement Grants in 2021, and then drainage improvement strong area probably 2022. But those are tentative. That's all I have. I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just take a moment here, put the screen up on, and we'll, if you'd stay up here, we might have some questions for you.
Is it on your chair?
Up, right here. Want to get up front? So there were some questions. I think there was one from the audience. Why don't we see if we can get clarity? Was it you that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it is mainly just terminology. One thing says this $5 on vehicles, one thing says it's a license. Does that cover utility trailers, boat trailers, anything that requires a license plate, or just motor
That's correct.
vehicles?
Yes, that's correct.
One
It would be
thing
a
said motor
vehicle
vehicles.
registration, yes.
All the above.
I believe so.
And
Anything that would require a license
that
plate
license
would be,
For road rage use, is that right?
I believe so, yes, sir. Yes.
All right. So, let's turn back now. We'll come back to the audience, but I want to see if the commissioners have any questions, of the engineer.
I have a question about the individual townships and villages that have put their $5 tax on previously. Was theirs earmarked to use for road repairs also, or do you know that?
I believe it can only be used for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I didn't know if for what portion. The townships, of course, only one of them bid is Chippewa. And, all the townships have to maintain is basically just roads and culverts. So anything over anything over 10 feet on a township road is the county's, maintenance.
Really?
It's considered a bridge, yes. So it would be just roads and culverts.
Do you have another question?
No. On this page where it says the 2018 road inspection results, and the costs are outlined there,
do these estimates take into account future price increases, or are these today's prices and certain prices?
That was, yes, that's.
Just today's prices?
Mhm.
Go ahead if you have one.
Sure. I wanted to ask you about the cash flow. I mean, there's two things. Well, one thing happening and another thing that's proposed. That's what the hearing's about. But since, to put it in context, when do you think you're going to start to see the 1.5 million per year start to flow? And then specifically, when would you see the license plate fees start to flow, and how would that work cash-wise?
Well, the gas tax, of course, that starts in July 1st of this year. I'm hearing by the time we receive something, we're looking around Labor Day. They're always a month and a half or so behind. As far as the license plate, the vehicle registration tax, that would start on 2020, January 2020. And then again, that's on a per month basis we receive. So probably the first month there, probably in February, we could see an increase, probably around $50,000, somewhere in there, I would think. That add up 12 times 50,000, is that 600,000?
So if I could just follow up on that, realistically, you wouldn't have very much money for 2020 construction season.
Right. As far as the bid stuff out early, you mean?
Well, you'd either have to have the money in hand to contract, or you'd have to have some way to, borrow in anticipation of revenue in order to do things sooner rather than later, which then costs interest. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, we definitely would have a little bit of carryover from this year into next year, and then we're looking at probably 3 or 4 months of the gas tax coming in. So we'd probably be in pretty decent shape as far as starting out at the beginning of the year. But if we looking at large contracts of $1 million or more, which we are looking at, those would probably have to we'd have to look at another either wait or potentially get a loan.
Other questions?
Yes. In seeing a lot of the comments that were on Facebook when this was put on there, do the Amish contribute to our road maintenance? I saw a lot, like people say, in other counties, they require them to have a license plate or whatever, but do the Amish here contribute?
Yeah, I think in other states, they may require that. In Ohio, they do not require. Yeah, so there is an Ohio Amish steering committee, and they put on as a voluntary tax. And last year we received a check, 80,000 plus 83, 84,000, somewhere in there. The last couple of years we've received that much. And again, it's a voluntary. I think what are we looking at? $50 a buggy or somewhere in there. That was kind of their recommended, recommended tax that they would put in that. And I don't think we're receiving probably as much as far as the number of buggies that are out there. I don't think we're receiving all that that's out there. There's probably some that are very good stewards and would go ahead and pay the tax, and then you got others that since it's voluntary, they decided not to.
What you said that was for Ohio, the 80,000 was for Ohio.
No, the 80,000 is for Wayne County. Yeah.
Alone. Okay.
Yeah, Holmes
Okay.
County gets a significant more amount than
Okay.
we do. I think they're around 200,000.
300,000.
300,000. Yeah.
Another follow-up on that, would some townships in Wayne County get separate money from the 80,000, do you know?
Yeah, they would, I think they get some. I'm not sure exactly how much they would get. Of course, it'd be our 4 southern townships there that would probably receive some, or 3 of them. Yeah.
All right.
Clinton probably wouldn't get any. Yeah.
Thank you. Other
Yes, when you have, difference on here, obviously I know what chip and seal is. Motor pave, is that only top coat, or are you grinding it off and?
It's actually, it's like a batch plant, and it's a batch plant that's right on the road, and they mix it and lay it. You add stone, you add emulsion, you mix it and put it right in place. The nice thing about it is it's got some flexibility to it, so so if you have cracking from underneath that comes through, you crack for a little bit on the surface, but then it'll heal itself. It'll actually, because it's got some more viscosity to it. Modern day pavement nowadays is very, very hard. It's an ODOT blend. ODOT does it because they're looking at heavy truck traffic. That's how they design everything, so that they don't care so much about the flexibility. They're more worried about the strength, and therefore it's a little more brittle. And in our situations, and with some of our sub bases being not as good as they should be, then what happens is we get that reflective cracking a lot quicker through that. So we're going to try it. It's the first time. I don't think we've done any more paving here in Wayne County. So Medina County has used it for quite a few years, and it was recommended also by our consultant.
Okay, also, would you give me a quick explanation, difference between scratch pave and drag patch?
Scratch pave is a thin maintenance layer of asphalt across the full width.
Okay.
And if you didn't know any better, you would have thought it got resurfaced. It's
Like
very
thin,
thin. It's not going to last.
Like an inch, you mean, or?
A little bit less.
Less,
Yeah.
okay.
It's it has to be maintenance for us to fall within the force account. If it's defined as maintenance, then we can spend as much as we want per mile under force account. If it goes above, it's not considered maintenance anymore, then we can only go 30,000 per mile, which means you can't really do anything. So that's about as much as we can do as far as with our own forces. If you add any more thickness to that, then we're looking at above the maintenance threshold. Now the drag patch, that's we have different screeds. They're either 4 foot, 6 foot, and we're basically probably seeing them on the edge of county roads all over.
Edges where you just paved the
Yeah,
edges.
we use those a lot to fill in horse troughs. We use them a lot for cracking along the edges. A lot of large vehicles or roads being narrow, right on the edge, there's not as much support on the edge, cracks them up, so we end up, it's more of band-aiding a lot of that, and we'll have to look into doing some more full depth type of reclamation type projects. Holmes County is doing quite a bit of that themselves, so we're gonna go down and look at it and see how it's working for them, and see if that's something we can bring up here in Wayne County.
Other questions? I do. The bridge program that you made reference to, yeah, we're not an hour yet, we can start till about 22. The question I have is, did you pick that up from the previous engineer, pretty much, the bridge program that you've been doing, or is that a new thing?
No, it was built with the new facility. As far as the ability to cast, yes, yeah, no, that is not, Roger did start that. What happened was, I think it got, it slowed down, so to speak, and when I came in, I kind of resurrected it, and, yeah.
Thank you for that. Question, 4.3 million, I think is about the number you say you need annually to do a sustainable maintenance program. Is that a number that you came up with, or is that mostly from a consultant, or where did you get that?
No, that's the number we came up with, going through and looking at the different classes of roads. Ones that have more traffic is gonna require require a more stout build-up, and it's going to require more maintenance, and so those mileage is going to be more per year. And how we come up with that is basically, you start off and you spend quite a bit to get it to good shape, and then you have to come back within 5 to 7 years, and you're going to have to do something to seal it. Chip seal is the normal process, and then you're going to have to come back again, probably another 5 years, and do the similar. So these are what they're called life cycle costs. Basically, is you come up with the methods and means of maintaining the sections of roads, and you basically just follow the common practices as far as how long a normal chip and seal will last. I mean, if you get 5 years out of a chip and seal, then that's pretty good. And so the upfront costs probably were the most on those, but once we got them in good shape, then the costs will go down.
Thank you.
But it's an average.
Are there efficiencies that you've been able to identify and implement, or are there more that would affect that 4.3? I'm not sure you have inflation dialed into that in terms of material costs going forward, so I would ask.
It is. It does include inflation.
You want to talk about efficiencies at all a little bit more? I know you did.
The deficiencies?
No, efficiencies.
Efficiencies.
Getting more for the money that we have.
Well, as far as for the road.
Primarily. I mean, you already gave some examples. The striping, bringing that in-house, looks like it might cut the cost almost in half, unless there's labor there that's not
Yeah,
in
but
that
you have
number.
to buy equipment to do that.
Yeah, there's an upfront cost with that.
So
but,
year one might be, right?
That's right, yeah. This year, we're not gonna be more efficient if we bid it out, but
Next year.
But yeah, it's, within the following years, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as being efficient, really, I think for us, it's just stretching the dollars and doing things by force account is definitely going to be the most cheapest way to do things. And we do all our own mowing. If we were to bid that out, you'd see more of us. It costs us more, that's for sure, to do this. Our staff has to be fairly large because of the number of miles that we have to maintain. We have 22 snow routes, so we have to have at least 22 full-time guys, and probably other counties probably only have maybe 15 to 17 full-time county guys. So we've kept with that. We want these guys to be full-time, especially during the winter. We don't want to call them up and say, I decided I'm not going to come in. They're very dependable, and they do a great job, and we know them well, and so as for us, it's to keep everyone busy and doing a lot of different things. We do a lot because we have a lot of guys.
Other questions? All right. We thank you very much for your presentation today, and I want to commend you on the thoroughness of your preparation here. It's helpful to us. We're learning this, trying to figure it out. We might need that in just a second. Thank you. So that's the first witness. I believe we have one other person signed up. And do we have two others? Yeah. All right. So you would. I'm sorry.
Nelson, did you get your question answered?
Yes, I did.
So if you'd want to come up to the stand, please, Mr. Deacon, and state your name for the record, and you can proceed with your testimony. Yeah, that might work best if you hold it.
Thank you. Doug Deacon from Chippewa Township. I thank the commissioners for reaching out with this public hearing. You guys have done a good job interfacing with the public. I also like to thank the engineer's office. They've obviously been doing good work. This is a very good presentation they put together. Lots of great information, and it's probably going to take a while to digest it all. I am not a civil engineer or an accountant or a lawyer or anything like that. I'm in this regard just a taxpayer. I rise in temporary opposition to the proposed registration increase. I say temporary because I think that eventually this may be necessary, but I'm of the opinion that we need to see what we can do, going back to Ron's questions and comments about efficiencies, what we can actually accomplish with the state money, the gas tax increase. And when I first read it, one of the reasons I'm so happy that the engineer put this together, this presentation, is because it gives a whole lot more detail than what was in the newspaper, which if the newspaper is the only thing you have to base your opinion on, you're gonna have a very slanted and an opinion that has a lot of holes in its basis of support. So this is wonderful. But having said that, there's still a couple of basic questions I have, and I don't need them answered. I just want to propose these questions as something to ponder when you're considering the decision. Apparently, we had a study done by Midwest Pavement Analysis and Design that said that over 20 years it's going to cost $36.8 million. Now, my calculator app on my iPhone says that comes out to about $1.8 million per year. For the purposes of this, let's ignore things like the cost, the time cost of money and so forth. It says in here that currently we got about 1.7 million budgeted. Well, right, that's fairly close to 1.8, obviously still on the shy side. But then we also see where the engineer's office proposes a $4.3 million annual budget for roads. That's an extraordinarily different number to go from 1.8 from the external study to 4.3 for the in-house assessment. And I think we need to have a conversation about how we rectify those two very, very different numbers. And if we paid an outside consultant to come up with a number that was that incredibly skewed, just a random thought that perhaps that we need to understand what they were not seeing if they are in fact wrong, that it's 1.8 million a year. Additionally, let's suppose it is 4.3 million a year to maintain our roads. Over the past several years, for sure since 2008 or so, where budgets certainly got tight here in Wayne County. For the past 10, 11 years, we've all been living on a very tight budget, the engineer's office included. One thing that can definitely be said is the engineer's office has gotten extraordinarily good at stretching their dollars to do as much as possible with as little as they have. And again, worthy of commendation. So that's to my point that I think when we go from 1.7 million to 3.2 or 3.1, 3.2 million with the gas tax money, it is probable that our talented staff will be able to accomplish more with that than they currently think they'll be able to accomplish. And I guess I don't foresee why we should go from 1.7 to 3.2 and instead go to 3.8 million. That seems like a very large increase when we just got an increase essentially from the state. And lastly, to why I say it's a temporary opposition, there's two basic problems I have here. One is being convinced whether or not this increase is actually needed, and with this excellent presentation, it's entirely possible I can be persuaded that in fact it is needed. But the other question is to what of timing, and whether or not it's something that we can sell to the public. And I would argue that in the same year that the gas tax revenue is going to increase, that is not the proper time. I think if we collect the gas tax revenue for a couple of years and then see where we are, that then it may be worth coming back and having this conversation again. Now, to the engineer's credit, if he's going to be given more money, he should already have a plan on how he can spend that money, and seeing things like the breakdown of the 3 years and the particular bridges that would be replaced is excellent, because you never know when you're going to be able to find extra money under stuck in a sofa cushion or whatever government budgeting amounts to, a sofa cushion. But it's good that he has these things in his hip pocket and knows how he can spend that money should funds become available. And like I said, hopefully in a couple of years we can have this conversation again and see where we are with the gas tax revenue and so forth, and then be able to address it at that time. I thank you, Commissioners, Engineer Miller. Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions of the witness?
I allowed to ask him a question? No? Yeah, that's okay. I'll talk to him later.
Well, I have a question for him, actually, and yeah, you can talk maybe just right after the hearing here.
Well, I probably won't be sticking around very long after the hearings. I gotta get home for one of my kids getting off the bus, but I trust we'll be able to converse.
I'm not sure I understand your math,
Okay.
because the consultant's analysis, as I understand it, was not what would it take to do this over an extended period of time. It would be, what would it cost if we were to do the whole thing right now in one fell swoop? You know, today's cost.
Sure.
You do it now. So I'm not sure I understood how you converted that to a number that was different than the 4.3 million the engineers proposed. Did you want to?
Sure. So I took the 36.8 million, right? Yeah.
That number. Yeah.
36.8 million over the next 20 years. About 36.8 million divided by 20 comes out to about 1.8 million. And considering that the current budget is 1.7 million, that's a reasonable sanity check, right? We're spending a little bit less than we ought to, and again, ignoring the time cost of money for a moment. So
Now, that's apples and chickens, just in my mind, because if you have to do the whole thing in one fell swoop, that's way different than all the other
Sure.
maintenance you need to do, because you aren't doing it all at once.
Sure.
And so you have two things instead of one thing. And so in my mind, that's a different equation that is applying to the same subject, but it's two different ways of looking at it, and I don't think you can compare them. That's just my opinion.
and a fair point. And but you know, again, going back to the selling it to people argument, if we've been able to do the job we've been doing, which arguably we've been getting behind, and I think that's a valid argument to make, on 1.7 million, it's awful tough to explain to the average members of the public why 3.2 isn't good enough when 1.7 last year was, if you understand. So
I wasn't trying to devalue your testimony.
No worries.
It was just that one piece.
I got you.
I thought maybe I don't have the same view on the math.
I understand.
Other questions? If not, again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was my exact question.
Oh, all right.
Cool.
Very good. It is 20 minutes until 4 according to that clock. Oh,
Can I ask
hands up.
Scott a question?
You didn't get sworn in.
I think we'll close the hearing and then we can
Okay.
have some discussion. So with that, the hearing is completed and we're going to adjourn the hearing. And then we'll have some maybe side discussion for those who can stay.